Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. Few names in history carry the same weight of betrayal as that of Marcus Junius Brutus. To his friends, he was an idealist. To his enemies, a traitor. To Julius Caesar, he was something far more complicated, a man he trusted, perhaps even loved, who would plunge the knife that ended his reign and his life. This is the story of Brutus, the man who killed Caesar. We finish off with the history brief and a return to Felton and Fowler's famous Americans you never knew existed. A quick word from our sponsors. This day in history. On January 29, 1861, Kansas was admitted to the United States as a free state, following years of violent conflict known as Bleeding Kansas. Its admission came just weeks before the outbreak of the Civil War. On January 29, 1979, Brenda and Spencer opened fire at an elementary school in San Diego, one of the first widely reported school shootings in U.S. history. When asked why she did it, she chillingly replied, "I don't like Mondays." Story of the day. Marcus Junius Brutus was born in 85 BCE into one of Rome's oldest and most distinguished families. His lineage reached back to Lucius Junius Brutus, the legendary founder of the Roman Republic, who had driven out the last king of Rome nearly 500 years earlier. That legacy mattered. It was a name steeped in republican virtue, liberty over tyranny, duty over friendship. And yet fate would test whether Brutus could live up to it. As a young man, Brutus was brilliant, bookish, and philosophical. He studied under Marcus Tullius Cicero, Rome's greatest orator, and fell under the influence of Stoicism, the philosophy of reason and self-control. He believed that Rome should be governed not by kings, but by laws, that the Republic, however flawed, was sacred. But the Republic, by Brutus's time, was already cracking. Into that chaos strode Gaius Julius Caesar, soldier, statesman, and master of ambition. By the 50s BCE, Caesar had conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon, and marched his army on Rome. The Republic's old system of checks and balances could no longer contain him. Brutus, caught in a storm, initially fought against Caesar, serving under Pompey the Great, Caesar's rival, in the civil war that tore Rome apart. But when Pompey was defeated at Pharsalus in 48 BCE, Caesar did something unexpected. Instead of executing him, Caesar pardoned Brutus, welcoming him into his inner circle. Some say Caesar saw in Brutus the son he never had. Others whispered that Caesar's affair with Brutus's mother made their bond even more complicated. Part paternal affection, you might say, and part uneasy guilt. Whatever the truth, Caesar trusted him deeply. He appointed Brutus to high office, showered him with honors, and treated him as family. And for a time, Brutus seemed to accept this. But beneath the surface, resentment was brewing, not for personal reasons, but for political ones. By 44 BCE, Caesar had become dictator for life. He wore the purple robe of kings, had his image stamped on coins, and accepted divine honors once reserved for Rome's gods. To the Senate, this was a dangerous omen. To Brutus, this was a nightmare. For generations, Romans had sworn that no man would ever again rule as king. The Republic was founded on that very promise. And now Caesar, the man who had once claimed to restore the Republic, was dismantling it piece by piece. Rumors spread that he intended to crown himself as an actual king. When during the Lupercalia festival, Caesar's ally Mark Antony offered him a diadem in front of the people, the crowd gasped. Caesar declined it. theatrically twice, but the damage was done. For Brutus and others, it was clear. The Republic was dying. It began quietly, in whispers, backrooms, and secret letters. A small circle of senators and magistrates, bound by fear and patriotism, resolved to act before Caesar could make himself a monarch. At the center of it all were Gaius Cassius Longinus, a hardened soldier and cynic, and our own Marcus Brutus, the philosopher-statesman whose name alone carried the moral weight to justify the act. Cassius was the instigator. Brutus became the conscience. If Brutus joined, they believed, the assassination would not seem murder, it would seem like justice. Over the next few weeks, more than 60 senators joined the plot. They called themselves deliberators. They met in secret, concealing daggers beneath their togas, waiting for the perfect moment. And that moment came on the Ides of March, or March 15th, 44 BCE. The morning dawned gray over Rome. Caesar was scheduled to attend a session of the Senate in the theater of Pompey, the same Pompey whom Brutus had once served, whose statue now stood in the Senate chamber. According to the historian Plutarch, Caesar's wife begged him not to go. She had dreamt of his statue running with blood. Even his soothsayer warned, "Beware of the Ides of March." But Caesar, dismissing superstition, went anyway. When he entered the Senate hall, the conspirators rose to greet him. They encircled him casually, pretending to present petitions. Then suddenly, the first dagger flashed. The blow came from Servilius Casca, who struck Caesar in the neck. Caesar cried out and staggered, and then came a flurry of blades. Historians say he was stabbed 23 times by men he had once called friends, and among them was Brutus. The phrase that echoed through history, immortalized by Shakespeare, et tu Brute, then fall Caesar. Whether Caesar actually spoke those words is uncertain. Ancient sources differ. Some say he uttered nothing, but just a groan, which would make sense if you were stabbed 23 times. Others claim he said in Greek, kai su teknon, you too, my child? Whatever he said, or didn't say, the betrayal cut deeper than any dagger. In that instant, Brutus became both executioner and heir to his ancestors' legacy, the man who had slain a tyrant to restore the Republic. Caesar fell at the base of Pompey's statue, his blood pooling beneath the stone image of the man he had once defeated. It was poetic, but it was chaos. When the senators rushed from the chamber, their daggers still dripping, they shouted, "Liberty is restored!" Brutus and Cassius believed that the people would rejoice, that they had saved Rome from tyranny. But they were wrong. To the masses, Caesar was not a tyrant. He was a hero, the man who fed them, who brought stability after years of civil war. Instead of gratitude, the conspirators met silence, and then rage. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, seized control of the moment. At Caesar's funeral, he delivered a masterful eulogy that turned public sentiment violently against the assassins. When he held up Caesar's bloody cloak and read his will, which left money to the citizens of Rome, the crowd erupted. The people rioted, the conspirators fled. Rome plunged once again into civil war. Brutus and Cassius regrouped in the east, rallying legions under the banner of the Republic. But the forces of Mark Antony and Octavian, Caesar's heir, were relentless. The final confrontation came in 42 BCE at the Battle of Philippi in Macedonia. The old allies now faced each other as enemies. Brutus fought bravely, but when his lines broke and Cassius fell on his own sword, he saw the cause was lost. That night, Brutus did the same. He took his dagger, the same kind that he had used on Caesar, and then fell upon it. His final words, according to tradition, were stoic and simple. "Virtue, you are but a name." He was 43 years old. History has never agreed on how to judge Brutus. To some, he was the last true Roman, a man who placed the Republic above friendship, who sacrificed his own peace of mind for a principle. To others, though, he was a murderer blinded by pride, whose idealism unleashed more tyranny than it ever prevented. His act did not restore the Republic, it actually destroyed it. Within a generation, Caesar's heir Octavian became Augustus, Rome's first true emperor, the very thing that Brutus had sworn to prevent. And yet, even centuries later, thinkers like Dante and Shakespeare wrestled with his legacy. Was he a villain or a visionary? Betrayer or savior? Well, perhaps he was both. The History Brief. The following comes from Felton and Fowler's Famous Americans You Never Knew Existed, published in 1981. Today, Skidoo 23 is a ghost town, but until the gold mines were exhausted, it was a thriving little village of more than 700 souls, situated high in the Panamint Mountains of California. With a modicum of wit, the settlement derived its unusual name from the turn-of-the-century fad expression, 23 Skidoo, and the fact that the nearest water supply was, well, exactly 23 miles away. Skidoo's finest hour came in 1908, when the town's most dissolute citizen, Joe Hoach Simpson, shot and killed Jim Arnold, a wealthy and respected banker. As soon as the news of the sensational murder reached the editor's desk at the Los Angeles Herald, a reporter was dispatched to cover the story. But justice was swift and sure in Skidoo, even if all the legal niceties were not always observed. By sundown, Simpson was hanging from a telephone pole and twisting slowly in the wind. And by the time the Herald reporter arrived, Simpson was resting peacefully under 6 feet of soil at the local cemetery. The newsman was desolate. His editor had instructed him not to come back without photographs and a first-hand account of the trial and execution. In the face of such disappointment, the townspeople regretted their unseemly haste, and for the benefit of the press, they exhumed the body and lynched Joe Simpson once more. Thank you so much again for tuning in and helping make this little humble show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying the show and would like to help me out with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. If you'd like to contact me, you can email me at peter@historyshortspodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.